Hello everyone, thanks for joining us today again for our chapter book story time as we are reading Little Women by Louisa May Alcott here at the Caribou Public Library. I'm Miss Erin and I'm so glad that you are joining us today. We are going to be continuing or finishing chapter 32, the second half of chapter 32, as Joe and Laurie just had an interesting conversation, and Joe thinks that Beth is interested in Laurie, right? All right, Joe lay long awake that night and was just dropping off when the sound of a stifled sob made her fly to Beth's bedside with the anxious inquiry, "What is it, dear?" "I thought you were asleep," sobbed Beth. "Is it the old pain, my precious?" "No, it's a new one, but I can bear it," and Beth tried to cheek her tears. "Tell me all about it. Let me cure it, as I often did the other." "You can't. There is no cure." Then Beth's voice gave way, and clinging to her sister, she cried so despairingly that Joe was frightened. "Where is it? Shall I call Mother?" Beth did not answer the first question, but in the dark one hand went involuntarily to her heart, as if the pain were there. With the other she held Joe fast, whispering eagerly, "No, no, don't call her. Don't tell her. I shall be better soon. Lie down here and pour my head. I'll be quiet and go to sleep. Indeed, I will." Joe obeyed, but as her hand went softly to and fro across Beth's hot forehead and wet eyelids, her heart was very full, and she longed to speak. But young as she was, Joe had learned that hearts, like flowers, cannot be rudely handled, but must open naturally. So, though she believed she knew the cause of Beth's new pain, she only said in her tenderest tone, "Does anything trouble you, dearie?" "Yes, Joe," after a long pause. "Wouldn't it comfort you to tell me what it is?" "Not now. Not yet." "Then I won't ask. But remember, Bethy, that Mother and Joe are always glad to hear and help you, if they can." "I know it. I'll tell you by and by." "Is the pain better now?" "Oh, yes, much better." "You're so comfortable, Joe." "Go to sleep, dear. I'll stay with you." So cheek to cheek they fell asleep, and on the morrow Beth seemed quite herself again. For at 18, neither heads nor hearts ache long, and a loving word can medicine most ills. But Joe had made up her mind, and after pondering over a project for some days, she confided it to her mother. "You asked me the other day what my wishes were. I'll tell you one of them, Marmee," she began as they sat alone together. "I want to go away somewhere this winter for a change." "Why, Joe?" And her mother looked up quickly, as if the word suggested a double meaning. With her eyes on her work, Joe answered soberly, "I want something new. I feel restless and anxious to be seeing, doing, and learning more than I am. I brood too much over my own small affairs, and need stirring up, so, as I can be spared this winter, I'd like to hop a little way and try my wings." Where will you hop?" "To New York. I had a bright idea yesterday, and this is it. You know, Mrs. Kirk wrote to you for some respectable young person to teach her children to sew. To teach her children and to sew. It's rather hard to find just the thing, but I think I should suit if I tried." "My dear, go out to service in that great boarding house." And Mrs. March looked surprised, but not displeased. "It's not exactly going out to service, for Mrs. Kirk is your friend, and the kindest soul that ever lived, and would make things pleasant for me, I know. Her family is separate from the rest, and no one knows me there. Don't care if they do. It's honest work, and I'm not ashamed of it." "Nor I. But you're writing?" "All the better for the change. I shall see and hear new things, get new ideas, and even if I haven't much time there, I shall bring home quantities of material for my rubbish." "I've no doubt of it. But are these your only reasons for this sudden fancy?" "No, Mother." "May I know the other ones?" Joe looked up and Joe looked down, and then said slowly, with sudden color in her cheeks, "It may be vain and wrong to say it, but I'm afraid Laurie is getting too fond of me." "Then you don't care for him in the way that it is evident he begins to care for you?" and Mrs. March looked anxious as she put the question. Mercy, no, I love the dear boy, as I always have, and I'm immensely proud of him, but as for anything more, it is out of the question. I'm glad of that, Joe. Why, please? Because, dear, I don't think you suited to one another. I don't think that you are suited. As friends, you're very happy, and your frequent quarrels soon blew over, but I fear you both would rebel if you were mated for life. You are too much alike, and too fond of freedom, not to mention hot tempers and strong wills, to get on happily together in a relation which needs infinite patience and forbearance, as well as love. That's just the feeling I had, though I couldn't express it. I'm glad you think he is only beginning to care for me. It would trouble me sadly to make him unhappy, for I couldn't fall in love with the dear fellow merely out of gratitude, could I? You are sure of his feeling for you? The color deepened in Joe's cheeks, as she answered with the look of mingled pleasure, pride, and pain which young girls wear when speaking of first lovers. I'm afraid it is so, Mother. He hasn't said anything, but he looks a great deal. I think I had better go away before it comes to anything. I agree with you, and if it can be managed, you shall go. Joe looked relieved, and after a pause said, smiling, How Mrs. Moffat would wonder at your want of management, if she knew, and how she will rejoice that Annie still may hope. Annie still may hope. Ah, Joe, mothers may differ in their management, but the hope is the same in all, the desire to see their children happy. Meg is so, and I am content with her success. I leave to enjoy your liberty until you tire of it, for only then will you find that there is something sweeter. Amy is my chief care now, but her good sense will help her. For Beth, I indulge no hopes except that she may be well. By the way, she seems brighter this last day or two. Have you spoken to her? Yes, she owned that she had a trouble, and promised to tell me by and by. I said no more, for I think I know it. And Joe told her little story. Mrs. March shook her head and did not take so romantic a view of the case, but looked grave, and repeated her opinion that, for Laurie's sake, Joe should go away for a time. Let us say nothing about it to him until the plan is settled. Then I'll run away before he can collect his wits and be tragical. Beth must think that I'm going to please myself, as I am, for I can't talk about Laurie to her. But she can pet and comfort him after I'm gone, and so cure him of this romantic notion. He's been through so many little trials of the sort, he's used to it, and will soon get over his lovelornity. Joe spoke hopefully, but could not rid herself of the foreboding fear that this little trial would be harder than the others, and that Laurie would not get over his lovelornity as easily as heretofore. The plan was talked over in a family council and agreed upon, for Mrs. Kirk gladly accepted Joe and promised to make a pleasant home for her. The teaching would render her independent, and such leisure as she might be made profitable by writing, while the new scenes and society would be both useful and agreeable. Joe liked the prospect and was eager to be gone, for the home nest was growing too narrow for her restless nature and adventurous spirit. When all was settled, with fear and trembling, she told Laurie. But, to her surprise, he took it very quietly. He had been graver than usual of late, but very pleasant, and when jokingly accused of turning over a new leaf, he answered soberly, So I am, and I mean this one shall stay turned. Joe was very much relieved that one of his virtuous fits should come on just then, and made her preparations with a lightened heart, for Beth seemed more cheerful, and hoped that she was doing the best for all. One thing I leave to your special care, she said the night before she left. You mean your papers? Asked Beth. No, my boy. Be very good to him, won't you? Of course I will, but I can't fill your place, and he'll miss you sadly. It won't hurt him. So remember, I leave him in your charge to plague, pet, and keep in order. I'll do my best for your sake, promised Beth, wondering why Joe looked at her so queerly. When Laurie said goodbye, he whispered significantly, It won't do a bit of good, Joe. My eye is on you, so mind what you do, or I'll come and bring you home. Oh. Laurie finally divulged what he's been thinking. All right, that's the end of chapter 32. 33 next time. Bye for now.